B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy. From the old to...
This week, we have a real West Coast legend. Hailing from the Bay Area, she was part of what, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated groups, male or female, of all time. B-boys, B-girls, welcome, CMG of the Conscious Daughters. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, everybody. I got my government name on my Zoom meeting right now. I don't know how that happened. But hey, everybody. A pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So what are your first memories of hearing hip-hop?
Oh, now you want me to age myself, huh? All right. So definitely in the I'm going to go. So in the 80s. Okay, because that's kind of when I was a kid. Don't tell nobody. But my first memories of hearing hip hop was when I heard Rapper's Delight. See, I was around before there were any R&B stations, before there were any rap stations. I listened to the rock station. We had a station called KFRC out here, and it played a lot of soft rocks. I was heavily into Billy Joel and Pat Benatar and all the soft rock of the great soft rock of the 80s. And then one day on the radio, I just heard this song. I said, a hip hop, the hip to the hip hop, yeah, don't stop. But that wasn't so. Once I heard that, I was like, oh man, it just opened up a whole new excitement. But I had already been heavily involved to listening to other music because my father's been in a band, and I was around a lot of band people in my life. And my best friend, when we were in school at this time, she worked for a radio station, so we had access to a lot of music really early. So I knew that wasn't the first, one of the very first rap songs, but when the Beat Street soundtrack came on, I started listening to all that it was just so refreshing and exciting. Couldn't wait to do it. All the B-boy jams and the break dancers, and it heavily influenced, New York influence. But we had access to a lot of that through the radio station that my special one, her mom worked at a radio station. So we had access to all the music. Then we started getting the visuals. And it was just a great feeling, man. And I can't believe it's grown into this, right?
50 years, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you start getting into hip hop and these, we're in the early mid 80s, who were some of your first favorite MCs?
Definitely MC Shy-Rock from the Funky 4+1 More was a huge inspiration. Her and the Roxannes, I say plural.
Right.
Definitely Roxanne Shante was really, really big for me. Sparky D was really, really big for me. But when the real Roxanne came out, she was light skinned. And I was I'm half breed. So it wasn't back in the day. It wasn't cool for like light skinned girls to be rapping and stuff. And it's something that I did anyway. I didn't have any haters or anything like that, but it just wasn't the norm back then. So when the real Roxanne came out, I was like, oh my gosh, she kind of looks like me. My hair was really long back then. And I was like, oh man, she is dope. So she was the one who really kind of just got my hopes up. You know what I mean? When she came out. But there's so many more. Of course, MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, and those in Moni Love, those, women, these are women who just inspired the crap out of me. Just to see them in their presence, Salt and Pepper especially, just to see them and be in their presence, the time that I did get to meet some of them was just, there was no words, But then, there were so many other, back on the West, it was a lot of Too Short, when Too Short first came out, and there was just a lot of West Coast. NWA was really big for us, and and then we started doing our own thing, and we started coming out with our own independent labels, and E40 started to surface. But going back to that, mainly those people that I mentioned to you, I'm sure I'm missing some. Lauryn Hill is a big one for me too. Lil' Kim, but they came a little later. Right. But early in the day, mostly Shy-Rock, the Roxannes, and MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, Moni Love, and Sweet Tea. I used to love me some Sweet Tea.
Sweet Tea,
I used to love me some Sweet Tea. And Dimples D. Dimples D was, I was at a jam the other night. I was feeling real good, so the feeling was right. I went to the party looking for some action. Next thing you know, I was doing a Michael Jackson. Like that, I was like, oh girl, she was bomb, And there's just a laundry, well, not a laundry list because there really weren't that many. Miss Melody even is another one because I'm a huge Boogie Down Productions fan. Criminal Minded is probably one of the greatest albums I've ever heard, like in my entire life. That just really the storybook to my life. Not to my life, but it just takes me
Right.
back to the greatest times in my life.
So you mentioned her before. When did you first meet Special One? In school?
Well, yes and no. So she was living in Oakland and I was living in Richmond. And I guess her mom had moved to El Cerrito and she moved next door to one of my school friends. So we met through a mutual friend. So she started, I was been hanging out with my friend and going to her house and hanging out and stuff. But then one day Carol was there. She was the neighbor and they were making friends, right? So she and I met through a mutual friend. Her name is Julie Perez. And she was a really good friend. And Carol and I just really kind of bonded because we really shared a love for music. My dad was in the band, so I spent all day long with musicians, famous musicians, and who would become famous, and I would be at the Greek Theater, the Berkeley Greek Theater, just running around with two Afro puffs in my head. That was my life, just riding around with my dad and his band and stuff. Because my mom was a nurse and she worked a lot, and Carol's life was all about radio. So that's all we talked about. And she was like, "Oh, I'm getting some turntables for my birthday." And her mom bought her some turntables. And I was like, "Ooh." And my friend Julie, like, she just wasn't into it like that, right? So eventually, she and I just became best friends. And I don't even honestly remember what happened to Julie. But we ended up just moving on. And then we started hanging out. And, I don't know exactly how that happened, but that's what happened. And we've just been sisters ever since.
At what age did you decide, maybe I can do this, when you started writing, rhyming yourself?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it was about let's see, ninth grade. Well, I believe that I could have done. First of all, I've been rapping since I was probably in the sixth. But by the time we got to the ninth grade, and Carol said, "I'm going to El Cerrito High School with you." So they had a radio class there, and she signed up for the radio class. So when she got to the class, the teacher said, "I can't teach you nothing." She knew how to run the whole setup. There was nothing he could teach her. So he made her his assistant. So that was when we first started recording officially she knew how to run reel-to-reels, cassettes, all the equipment. And it was also a small 10-watt radio station. So we had a radio show in the ninth grade. So I don't know, what's that about? How are you in the ninth grade? 14?
14, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And that's when it started. And then it was, I don't want to say I knew, but I didn't care. We did it because we loved it. We didn't wake up one day and say, "Hey, I want to be a star," like a lot of people do now. Like, they do it for the wrong reason. I feel like they just want to be on TV and flash this. And we wanted to be heard. Like, we loved it. We wanted to be a part of the culture. We participated in all of that. I did everything but breakdance, but I could fake it though,
Pop a little bit.
But them the simple moves. But anyway, it happened really, really early for us. And we were best friends, like sisters. And the loyalty was just amazing throughout the whole situation, because we would be like, we have a group of sisters. There's probably 8 of us that are really solid. We've been best friends since ninth grade, possibly the 8th grade. A couple of them know each other since kindergarten. And so we've had a tight circle of support. And we were just very confident about ourselves. Our girls would be like, yeah. Everywhere we went, they were there, like, cheering us on. So we would hit the clubs, and Special One loved to freestyle. She was a great freestyler. She went straight to the DJ booth. Next thing you know, you hear her on the mic, she goes, "Yo, CMG, where you at? What's up?" She'd be up there, and the DJs just let her on there because she was just that kind of person. That she was just the life of the party. And she was just got along with anybody. We were in the airport, and I'm looking like, where did she go? She's over there sitting in the corner talking to some 74-year-old white man. They're over there laughing. And she's like, yeah. She had something in common with any kind of person you could think of. And it was just amazing that because we kind of grew up in a white neighborhood. We were blessed, we never, we didn't have any struggle. We're both only children, and our parents pretty much gave us whatever we wanted. So once she got those turntables, it was on and popping. And then we got the little cassette recorders and, 8 tracks and all kinds of stuff. We were doing all that stuff really early, but yeah, we started making cassette tapes, and that's when it really started popping because we started going out and handing out our tapes.
How
Yeah.
did you come up with the name Conscious Daughters?
Really, somebody else came up with that. One of my best friends, she was dating this guy in San Francisco, and his name is Ron. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be." You know how you run across all these people that are doing like, "I'm a producer. I'm gonna put you out." Like they got money. Like he had money. And so we were like, "Oh, maybe he'll put our records out," because we knew it back then. You're like, it costs so much, right? But now it doesn't cost anything. Obviously, you can do that for nothing. But back then we kind of needed somebody to invest money in us. So she had been dating him, and he took us to the studio, and there was this guy in there, and we started working with him. We were called Chaos at first. But Carol, the way that she was, aka Special One, that's the thing. A lot of people call us by our government names. It's just how personable we are. But Carol and Carla, it's so square. We'll be like, "Hi, I'm Carla. Hi, I'm Carol." Then we get on the stage and just be talking hella shit because our insides are really good people,
Right.
you know. But we did the Michael Jackson effect when we got on the stage, you know, just changed, you know. But so the guy, so his friend was like, "Oh, he's like, you sure know a lot," because Carol, she was very socially conscious. She knew everything, like where all the parties was. He said, "I call you Conscious Daughter," and we went, "Ooh," because he was like. He wasn't even from, he was like from another country. We felt like he was sent to us. And he had a really thick accent. He was very like African or Nigerian. I don't know where he came from. I forgot his name. But when he said that, we were like, we like that. But we didn't really think of the conscious of it.
Right.
We just liked the way it sounded, you know. And that's what really drew Paris to us, because we plastered Conscious Daughters all on our jackets. And he was like, "Conscious?" You know, he's very politically conscious and just very Black power. And later we would learn so much from him, you know, and it would turn into just a match made in heaven.
Well, that was my next question. Talk about meeting Paris. You passed him a demo, I believe is the story, correct?
Yeah.
And
those tapes that we were making in high school.
Yeah.
We left. I remember when we left the campus, the school was about to be over. We spent hours in there just making cassettes and putting them in boxes because we were like, we're not gonna be able to come back here, you know. But then we started knowing people who had little mini studios here and there. But we left high school with a whole bunch of tapes, and then after that, we kind of met some new people, and we went into their studios and made some new cassettes and kind of updated those songs. But we went to a Digital Underground album release party in San Francisco. And I'm going to say this was around 1990. It was 90 or 91. And he was there. And he walked over to us and he said, "What's this?" He said, "I like your hat," because we had a Conscious Daughters hat and a jacket. And he said, "What's Conscious Daughters?" And we said, "Oh, you know, we Conscious Daughters." And Carol just talking, we all that, and, you know. So that she got on the mic, obviously at the party, she just gets on the mic and then she throws it to me. You know, I keep a freestyle in my back pocket because I wasn't as good as coming off the top as she was.
Right.
But it was a great mix because my memory is through the roof. So I memorized my rhymes. So I was able to just come with something. You know, I was thinking I wrote something the other night. And I would go over them all the time. So whenever she would come out talking about people's clothes and shoes, and she'd throw me the mic, and then I just started spitting something, and it was amazing. And so he was like, "Oh." So we passed him a demo. He was like, "Okay, cool." On the demo, we wrote our phone number, and he called us and he said, "I like your demo." He said, "I'm starting, you know, a record label, and I'll be interested in talking to you guys." And we were like, "Wow." He said, right now he was on Tommy Boy at that time, Tommy Boy Records. And I think he was leaving Tommy Boy and he was going to move to, I don't know, he was starting his own label. So we had a meeting with him if things went really well. And, you know, he just offered us some money, and we hadn't heard of that much money. Like at that time we had jobs, but, you know, I was like, "What job? I'm out." You know, we have no kids or nothing, you know.
Right.
So we worked it out with him, and we went in the studio and we just commenced to making two back-to-back great albums. Well, they weren't back-to-back, but, you know, it was just amazing that. And Paris really put his twist on it, because the marriage of the raps that we had, which was just about partying and hanging out and going to the lake, riding, drinking 40s, and, you know, and he was, you know, that's genocide to him, you know, drinking 40 ounces and these type of things. So we'd be in the studio like, but then we'd be like, "Oh, sorry, Paris is here." We put the beer down. You know what I mean? He was kind of like our daddy. it was really good the way he saw a machine, a mechanism to spread the word about women. And he's very, very strong. He feels very, very strong about Black women and the uplifting of Black women, which is amazing. And so he said, okay, for every album you guys do, I want to write a song that is about something. Because we didn't do that. We were just all over the place, right? So the first album we did a song about teenage pregnancy. He
Shitty
wanted to tackle
situation.
an issue. Yeah, he wrote that sticky situation, which is not a true story. A lot of people think, did you really have a baby? And I didn't have a baby at that time. It wasn't a true story, but it was his story that we shared about. You know, it's kind of like Brenda had a baby, just telling the story, right? And then on the second album, we had a song about AIDS because AIDS was around. It was called All Caught Up. He wrote that. And then on the third album that we have, the Nutcracker Street, we did a song called Dirty Little Secret, which was about domestic violence. And so it just, you know, it just meshed together so well. And then some of the repetitive things that we were doing on the songs, he would go in and just say, take out a whole lot, because we can't talk about weed and 40s all the time, you know. So he would insert some lyrics here and there, and it just made a great recipe for super albums. It was really good.
Well, and at this time, I was already a fan of Paris, and you know, he started Scarface Records. So when that first Conscious Daughter album hit, I was all on it, and I thought it had a great mix of whether it was like the storytelling elements or the street or like Funky Expedition, the more, you know, laid back party vibe. I thought it was such a well-rounded album. I mean, I was a fan from jump.
Thank you. He did a remarkable job on that, especially with that production. I love it's very hard for me to work with anybody else because I'm used to such great quality. I'm kind of a spoiled brat when it comes to it. I can never, like, people are like, you don't produce? I'm like, yeah, I can make beats, but I can't make a beat that I want. Like, I don't have the patience for that, number one. And number two, like, that's not my thing. But just, you know, and then we had Big Bass Brian. He like mastered all of our music, which that, like, how do you get that sound? That's theatrical stuff. You know what I mean? So we got that big bass boom, you know, and he's a major key player in Hollywood. He's mastered, you know, mega albums of the best people. And just to have him master our albums was like, Big Bass Brian is mastering our stuff. Me and Carol was sitting there looking at him like, just watching him. Because we didn't sit in on the whole sessions. Like, he would do the mastering and, you know, and work with some of the mixes and stuff like that. But we were really students. We were just sitting in there. We couldn't believe, first of all, that we were recording in Universal Studios or wherever we were in Hollywood with Big Bass Brian. Just amazing. It was a great ride.
Then after that came Gamers. Now, Gamers has my favorite Conscious Daughter song of all time, TCD for Life, West Coast Bomb. Such a big fan of that song. Do you have any memories of putting that together, recording it?
Yeah, we were just hungry because we had already put out an album. People were like, it was like a boxing match. We'd be like on the side of the stage, like, put the beat on. You know, it was weird. Like, and then Carol would be in the corner going, when the intro music come out, she's on one side, I'm on the other side. We're like putting our head in the wall, like, you know, like we're just about to fight or something. I don't know what it was, but making that song, we were hungry. And I remember saying, we're gonna fuck this shit up. Like, and Paris already had put the hooks in, straight fucking them up the Mac flow, because it came from other songs.
Right.
And we were like, ooh. And so then we wrote it. And then Carol was like, well, who's gonna step up and do something? He said, no, say who the next bitch to want to battle. Like, he would pick little parts and we would, you know, put them together. And it was just like putting a puzzle together. But we would just come in, like, we would write all the time. We would spend the night in the hotel. We would be in our slippers and our pajamas. We have teddy bear. Carol walked in with a big old teddy bear, you know, and a 40. And we'd be so excited. You know, when you're young, you could stay up all night, right? And we'll just be sitting in there at Hyde Street Studios and just be sitting in there writing. And we were just hungry. But a lot of times we would write at home. So we would come to the studio with lyrics. We didn't just sit there and write. That was one thing we did not. That's one thing Paris said about us. He was like, you guys do not take long in the booth because we practice. And it's not even about practicing. I say it in my head. I practice in my head. I don't know. A lot of people don't. I don't know if a lot of people do that, but I practice in my head all the time. I'm like, so I can get the flow. I don't have to say it out loud. I just, I know once I write it, and then I got it memorized. I just walk around, and it's going in my head. It's like on repeat. So when the mic comes on, I run through it. Usually, my first 3 takes are the best ones. I wouldn't be the 4. When I get to 4, 5, and 6 and all that, then it starts going, man. I'm like, let's keep this, or at least a portion of the first 3, because that's when you're excited,
Right.
Yeah, I don't record. I do a few runs. I run through it maybe 3 times, and then you can start recording me. But yeah, we were pretty quick in the vocal booth. That's just from radio background. That comes from being on. We did MTV, and they were like, "You guys would be great video jocks." And we were like, well, thank you, because we just talked and we had content. I just realized, like, it's just how we came up. We were recording at such a young age. Then we got on the radio in the 9th grade, so when we talk, we speak, and we talk loud. We were never soft girls. We don't whisper, you know what I mean? Like, we were never, no, we speak up. And I'm still like that. I think I'm still kind of loud, but really that background, our upbringing really prepared us a lot for that recording. And we were just ready to record. And once we got the lyrics, man, then a lot of weed and 40 ounces. We didn't get into no other drugs. Like, we weren't ever like big, heavy drug users or anything like that. Just, that would become a challenge later in life for like Special One before she passed away. Obviously, a lot of people know that because they could see the change in her. But it was just like something that just kind of came naturally to us, honestly.
One thing I wanted to touch on was in the early 2000s, Nas did a West Coast remix of Where Are They Now? And I remember listening to that, getting excited as my favorite MCs like Ice-T and King T are showing up. And here comes the Conscious Daughters. How did you get that call? Do you remember that whole, putting that together?
Yeah. So first of all, I was so mad we were last. I was like, why are we last? We're at the very little end. And then it was so short. I wanted to do so much more. But when I tell you, my whole heart was just, we toured with Nas a little bit, right? With Nas and Ice Cube. And so at the time we were touring with him, when he wrote More Conscious So the Way We Raise Our Daughters, I feel like we were there because he was writing, on the bus or something, But I got a call from Bobcat from Uncle Jam's Army. He's the one who hooked that up. He was like, because he was he was the one who's doing the tracks and putting it together and stuff. I think he produced it. Did he produce it? Either him or somebody on his team or somebody produced it. And he called us and he said, Nas wants to invite you to do this. And I'm like, what? We were like, what? So we didn't get to go in the studio with all those people, which would have been great. But they pieced it together and I'm just so happy to be a part of it. Just so happy to be a part of it. That is one song that I'll always treasure. And I'm just so happy that he thought of us. Period. We were the only women. I'm so happy. And he was like, no. And I said, did you tell him to call? He was like, no, he said it himself. He said he wanted to get the Conscious Daughters on there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I was excited to hear you.
That means the world coming from Nas.
Right. No doubt.
Nasir Jones.
So talk about why the length of time between Gamers and Nutcracker Suite. Why the big chunk of time?
What had happened was, around 1990. So Gamers came out in 95, 96. And I don't say a few months later, something called Napster happened. Napster came out and ruined everything. Like all the records that were lined up to come out, like we were slated to go in the studio. And I don't know if you remember, but the record industry shut down for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, while they figured out this MP3 thing. Because now people were downloading music and they were like, oh my God, they couldn't believe it. It was this whole huge thing. Priority Records were having all these meetings and they said, oh, your meetings are canceled. Everybody's on freeze right now. Us, Lil Half Dead, Mac 10, we all got caught up in this wait. Putting music out, Master P and his crew. I mean, everybody who was on Priority Records, we were just sitting there. And we got a call probably, I don't know, a year or something, probably about a year and a half later, saying that they're not putting out any more albums and they're releasing we got released, they released a large number of people. We had got released. We were like, what do you mean released? What do you mean released? Then that was like 97. And then at that time, you know, we were just kind of living our lives, enjoying our money. I had got pregnant and had a son. So that brought in another couple years. So that's bringing us to, you know, 2000, later in the 2000s. Yeah. And then finally Paris, he went back and he went back and got a deal with Universal. And then he came back and said, you know, let's do this album. So it just took a while, you know. Right. It was a combination of Napster, and then we got released, and then from there, we were kind of waiting on him, you know. When really we could have been, if we would have been more proactive, we could have been. Not to say we wanted to leave him or anything, but
right,
you know, any person who really wanted it would have just went out and started looking. You know, somebody, how can we make this happen? You know, but I think we were just got a little comfortable, and we were touring though. That tour money was great. Like we had concerts. We were busy doing shows and traveling and stuff. So that was fun. We were enjoying that for a while.
Speaking of shows, I like to ask everyone, do you have any 1 or 2 crazy show memories? Something bananas that happened at a show?
The one thing that stands out in my mind, so there's one thing we did and it's local. We did a summer jam with 106 KMEL. It was when Too Short was beefing with the radio station. And we were like, you know, da, 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 da. Then all of a sudden, like Too Short walks in with like, I don't know, it was like, I don't know how many people like ran up there. They didn't do any. I mean, it was like I remember thinking, oh, what's gonna happen? Because we knew that he was mad at the radio station. At the radio station, I forgot what happened. They had some beef. I don't know what it was about. I'd be lying if I made up something. So. But when they came with all his people, we was like, oh my God, we're gonna go running high because we know what they was gonna do. But that was probably one of the biggest things. What else? That happened here. Nothing really stands out to me that is crazy. We were able to pretty much duck and dodge things that were pretty major. Nothing really interfered with what we were doing. You know, we just enjoyed the shenanigans on the street and all the groupie guys, and you know, we stayed out of the way pretty much. We were like, you know, we doing our little rap thing, but we ain't no dummies. Like our mamas taught us to run, like get up, duck, like, you know, take for cover, look for the exits. We was like, but you know, we didn't hang around for much. So I wouldn't really have that many crazy that I could think of right now. It'll probably come to me later.
Talk about, if you don't mind, hearing about when Special One passed away and both of you, but since we're talking about her in this regard, her impact on West Coast hip hop.
You know, really brought it close to home. I would say like during COVID, we had like a slew of people just die. There was a time period back in the 2000s when that was kind of happening as well, when she passed in 2011. It was a shock to me because I was calling her and I was like, so when we grew up together, right? And she had always been a tomboy, like in school and everything. And she was a basketball star. She was so talented. She was like most likely to do everything in the high school yearbooks for all 4 years, including she was a softball player. She played baseball. She was an all-star baseball player when she was 10 and 11, you know, so she was a very, very special individual. It was very surprising to me. So one of my best friends, I was trying to call her because we kind of separated ways. So when she came out of the closet, she was doing a lot of gay clubs and stuff. And I had my son. So the whole gay thing wasn't okay right then. So she was hiding it from us for a while, right? So when she came out of the closet, fine, we all accepted it. Okay, we accept you and all your girlfriends, no problem. But we started to kind of do different things. You know, when we started growing up a little bit, I had a son. She didn't have a kid yet. Well, she does have a son now, that she had with one of her partners. But so we kind of separated ways. So I would be calling her like she would record her part. I have a home studio. She would record at her home studio and we would just send in our verses. So we didn't go to the studio together as much when we were selling verses. So I kept calling her and I was like, man, they sent us the money. Or when are you going to do your verse? And then finally I started calling other people. Have you talked to Carol? They were like, no. So one of our friends went over to her house to check on her and walked in her house. Her door was unlocked, but she never leaves her door unlocked. And walked in her house and just found her in the bathroom. She had just collapsed and died. And, you know, so the doctor said that she didn't even feel herself hit the ground. She had a blood clot that came from her knee and hit her lungs. Now, she's a lifelong athlete. She's had 3 orthoscopic surgeries. So her knee was always an issue, and it was very swollen. And I remember thinking, did you get this checked out? You know, she would get in the car and put her knee up. And then one time she had like a little cane, like her knee just became an issue for many years. And I would say, you know, I should have really made sure that she went to the doctor, but she didn't have any health care. She just wouldn't go to the doctor. And that whole time her knee had blood clots in it. And I can still picture it now, but I'm thinking her knee is swollen. I didn't know anything about blood clots, right. And I should have really wrote her about that. So yeah, same thing happened at Heavy D. It's called a pulmonary embolism anyway. So yes, that's what happened. And but it was very shocking. And you know, I don't know. I honestly, it was very numbing to me. I think I was drunk probably for like 3 months, and honestly, alcohol helped me get through all of that.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I just had to, like, the pain, you know, I just, you know, was like, okay, every day. But we were all together, like the circle of friends that I was telling you about, all of us, we were together all the time. So we comforted each other all the time. And then it turned into let's talk about her. Then it turned into let's celebrate her. So we have these events now every year where we celebrate Carol, and we all come together, make it a point to see each other, bring the kids and all that stuff. So we do a lot of stuff in her honor. But yeah, that was a tough one. I don't even remember much, to be honest with you. It was such a blur, you know, when you're so shocked. But she's my angel now. This girl, listen, she's found ways to like contact me, which is really strange. But I'm just like, probably because I was just open to it. You know what I mean? Like, but her ass is crazy still, and I just get a kick out of watching her. I just pulled up some recent footage. I have 14 video cassettes, some little mini cassettes from the old school camcorder that I just got put onto CD because I'm doing a documentary about Conscious Daughters. So now I'm just about to solidify our legacy. You know, I'm happy to be. I got a call from Brown University. They're doing a music exhibit about women in hip hop. They included us in it alongside Queen Latifah, the greats. Right. All the greats that you can think of, and they put us in. I was so happy to get the call. We're being inducted into the African American Music Museum in Oakland in June. So you know, just being able to, and then it's all coming alive again with the Grand Theft Auto 5. We Roll Deep. Our song is on there. Yep. And I get all these videos from these kids skateboarding to it. My own bonus grandson is in here. Like I think I'm you know, smacking up people to your song. I'm like, okay. But you know, it's just a kind of full circle now. And now I just did a show with Ice Cube and Bone Thugs and Harmony, and so I'm kind of getting back on the circuit and being you know, accepted. And you know, I still got the flow and rhythm in the show, and I'm good for 10 minutes. I can rock that whole spot. I got a dope DJ. I got this dope ass hype girl that is amazing, just straight MC shit. We get down to do some Run DMC shit, you know, back and forth, and she scratches Carol, and Carol is completely included in the show that I do. I made a storm, and then you hear her just, I'm the crazy bitch that you can't fuck with, and it just comes out of nowhere. It's like she's coming down, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Cool. Like, so I'm looking forward to doing more shows this summer. I'm looking to get on these lowrider shows in LA. All the OGs and the Vatos, all my Latin people out there, they love us. They was all bumping that. So, you know, I'm gonna show up and deliver those songs and just keep the legacy alive. I didn't want to do that for a while, honestly, but you know, now I'm full-fledged ahead because I'm comfortable in where I am. You know what I mean? Like you get older. It's like not about money anymore. Sure. You know, I'm well off. You know, everybody can use more money, but I'm not doing it for the money, right? I'm doing it just because I want to get back to the people my age, and I'm going to these old school, even the day parties. That's the thing. I saw. I recently went to go, not recently, a little while ago. I went to go see Rakim, and that just was everything. Like just bringing back the old school is a great feeling. So I want to be a part of that.
And as a fan, it's great to see. Thank you for your contribution to hip hop in general. As a hip hop head, I was a fan from the beginning. And thanks for your time. That's what I got. Do you have anything to plug? And where can people get at you at social media?
Yeah, I mean, on social media, I'm Conscious Daughters. A lot of people spell it wrong, so they can be like, "Where are you?" CONSCIOUS. Conscious Daughters on all platforms. If you just Google that, everything comes up. I'm working on a documentary. I'm also in the studio doing an album. I put out an album, a solo album called The Jane of All Trades, under the name of CMG, and it's available everywhere. So The Jane of All Trades, if you look that up, I got some tracks on there with Keith Murray, San Quinn, and quite a few other people. Marvelous, goes on and on and on. So, if you get a chance to check that out, that's something. So I'm going to do another solo album, and I'm working on it now.
Mic checker 1, 2 with the chrome deuce holder with the gangster. Dumb slugs in the chamber. Coming out the crew, Mike bruising and getting swole. Tipping cups, beady puffs, and bankroll. I'm still special on the motherfucking great. I still got niggas on foul, still buck wild. I'm still the best bitch rapping that you ever heard. I give a fuck, nigga, what? I'm still serving. Killer Cali is the West Coast, northern exposure. Half dead niggas get floored. What the fuck is going on? Should I mob with the crew? Or should I kick back and make stacks off a record too? I give a fuck about your old school wannabe. Bitch made dick sucking ass, I'm a fucking G. So nigga bow with your freestyle when I bust. Coming straight from the bitch you can never trust. Was a lockdown, look at Tupac now. West Coast nutty ass niggas got chrome triggers. East Oakland, motherfucking Bay. California lifestyle, real bitches getting paid. Rolling deeper than a canyon, a man gets none of this if he ain't real to the fucking gristle. So missy with that bullshit, bitch, I'm flowing. Conscious Daughters in the front, got your ass open. Beat up for yours and I'm down for mine. West Coast bomb, I'm the motherfucking best. Beat up for yours and I'm down for mine. With more stripes than a vet, bitch, take a guess. Beat up for yours and I'm down for mine. West Coast bomb, I'm the motherfucking best. Beat up for yours and I'm down for mine. With more stripes than a vet, bitch, take a guess. How many niggas wanna put the good fuck look daughter on they wing, driving by side, no thing. High maintenance, posted, they bustin' up. Got me thinking I'ma break this nigga something tough. Packing heat, baby, never underestimate the trait 8 with the chrome plate, cause I make bitch breed, motherfuckers bow to the dirt. See the G, that's putting in the most work. Somebody said pivot wasn't easy and it never lied. Hard die K9, Bush Rod High. Battle wounds from the late night scrap sets. With more stripes than a vet, bitch, take a guess. And make a move for your tool if you think you're bigger. But I'm the first with a what coming after